So hey, look, remember guys, I wasn't getting any fucking fuel before? That's fucking fuel there, son! Alright guys, so I'm assuming I've mashed this video up together and you've seen a couple of clips before getting to this part. But anyway, so formal welcome to the VHP Engines. I'm Chris. And okay, so historic moment and day. I've had this car for probably about 3 years now. This is the first time I've ever had the thing run. It's running. Now, the engine's been together for a year, so it's not that long, or a year and change. But I've had the car for a long time. And for those of you that have been following around, at least recently within the last month or so, talking about between H-Day May or April and H-Day coming up, I've been dealing with this car. You know, there was a sponsor engine block that I had. I got parts from Kings and was it Scat and Nippon Racing, and Jeff from over at Cylinder Support System had the CSS installed for me. So, and that's been over a year, like a year and change now. And so the whole thing was to get the car up and running and get the numbers so that way I can give it back, and it's, you know, better for advertisement and shit like that. And I kind of like dropped the ball on it. Originally, when I got everything donated to me, I had a friend I was going to give it to, and because I know that generally speaking, it's easier for me to do things for other people, or you know, give it to other people and have them get it running, than it is for me, because I take forever. Now, the car has been together now for months. I can't remember. I'd have to dig through my old YouTube videos to see when I actually put the swap in. But I would say 3 or 4 months easy, if not longer, or if not sooner. Maybe been earlier at the beginning of the year or the end of last year. But alright, so 5 or 6 months. It's been at least that long since the swap's been in the car. So once I got the battery, I figured that was the last problem. And then for those of you who haven't been tracking, you know, I had a crank no start, and I was like, okay, you know, I plugged in, I jumped the check engine light to see the codes. Only got one code. It was for injectors. I was like, okay, I'm not getting fuel, and it's the injectors are the issue. So I was like, okay, low impedance injectors or whatnot, and I checked, and I need the resistor box. So I ordered a plug and play resistor box, plugged it in, got nothing. And I was like, well, what the fuck then, you know? But that's what I get for just jumping to conclusions without really thinking the problem through. As soon as I went to go start it again, you know, I realized a big glaring issue: the fucking fuel pump's not priming. Like, oh, well, that's why we're not getting fuel. Now, so I've had issues. I've also talked about before in the past about cars that had car alarms that installed that, you know, the alarms were removed, and because they were removed, the wires that were chopped together that was plugged into the harness, you know, were now disconnected. Have to try and either replace harnesses or chase the wires down and try and reconnect them the right way. And it was just an issue. Last time, it was a nightmare issue. Last time I got a car like that was an EF. I put the whole car together, mocked up the turbo kit, everything. The car was 100% ready to go, and I got nothing. No crank, no, not just a no start, but no crank, no nothing. So what did I do? I don't like troubleshooting, if you haven't figured that out by now. Like I've mentioned it a bunch of times. So I took the swap out, took the turbo kit off, parted everything out, sold the shell, and yeah, I got rid of it. So now, the thing is, the difference between this car and that car, though, was I heard this car run. This car was running and driving before it came to me. I got it as a shell because my homeboy took it apart. You know, he took the swap out, sold the swap, and then sold me the shell. So I'm like, what the fuck, man? This car ran when I got it, and I know for a fact he didn't remove the alarm, because that's the first thing I told him is, "This got an alarm? Yeah, don't touch it. And don't touch it or I'm not buying the car from you, because, you know, I don't want to deal with that kind of hassle, that headache, that nightmare. You know, wiring is not my forte. I do not like it. I don't like it more than basic shit." So, so when I got that issue with the, you know, the crank no start, I was kind of happy it was crank. At least it was turning over, you know, circulating oil and shit, you know. So we got that, you know. But the no start's a problem. I need to have this thing run. So, yeah, I was just worried. I was like, fuck, man, you know, the fuel pump's not priming, so obviously I need to start the fuel pump and work my way back from there, and maybe check relays. I did the basic thing, check fuses and relays up front, and they were all good. So I'm like, well, all right, so that just means I got to start troubleshooting. And there's a whole bunch of shit in the trunk, and that was another thing that was making me lazy. I was going to clear out the back to get to the fuel pump, you know, to actually do some troubleshooting. So I finally did it today. I finally got outside and I started pulling shit out of the trunk. It wasn't as much as I thought it was. It was mainly just a set of wheels, and the seats are already up. They were never actually installed in the car. So I just pulled them out of the back, set them on top of the shell next to it, and started looking at it. So I get in the back and I'm looking. I'm seeing, okay, I see right away. I see that's the alarm system spliced into the fuel pump, but it looks like it's all connected and good. So I'm like, huh, I see the main red power wire that they had running to the front. So I start tugging on it. I was like, oh man, hopefully this is it. Hopefully it just disconnects from where it leads to in the front. And I'm pulling on it and it snags. I'm like, okay, so it's not disconnected. So I'm like, huh, what the fuck else could it be, man? So I pick up the twisty cap and I'm looking at it, and I'm just like, little tug, just a little baby tugs, and baby tug pulled the main power line out of from the fuel pump. That just came right the fuck out. So I untwisted that little cap, and I could see the power line, the copper wire wrapped around one of the wires, and it broke free, disconnected. Now, first off, those things, I guess, in theory, are really great, but they're not. They're shit. Especially on wires that are that small, you're bound to break something off. All right? And that's a huge problem, with that, just from something so simple. So what I figured happened is I was using that car as a transport for a lot of stuff for my moving and shit, right? I had a bunch of wheels that were sitting back there on top of it, and the fuel pump was exposed, like the top of the pump was exposed too, or the wiring and shit was. So I'm thinking that the wheels moving back and forth in the back, the shit shifting around, that it snapped it free. It snapped that line. So I leaned over the back and I fucking bit a chunk of the casing off, and I kind of took all three of them and unraveled them, and then I twisted them back together, kind of like hodgepodge. I just need to send a signal. I don't need to fucking make it look good right now. I just need to send a signal to make sure I'm getting it right. Now my battery's dead because it's been months that it's been sitting out there, so without being run on. So I had my wife bring the Toyota around, and she hooked up the CHR to it, and of course my key was still in the on position. Because I was going to originally sit in the car and listen to here at Prime, but I hadn't thought about it. I forgot about it in the meantime, waiting for the jumper cables for my wife to pull around. So I'm standing there, and then as soon as I put the positive on, fucking fuel shut out. So that's why you saw that clip in the beginning. Fuel shut out. I was like, oh fuck yeah, the fuel pump is priming. The fuel pump is priming. Now I've already heard the engine turn over, and no fuel was the only reason why I wasn't starting. So now there's 100% chance it's going to start. Or at least that's what I'm thinking. But I'm still crossing my fingers, because even though logic says it should start, my luck usually doesn't always hold. So I got in the car and I went to go crank it over, and it fired up the first attempt. It was like, oh. So the actual the startup video you're hearing at is not the very first startup. It's the second one, the one that immediately followed. Excuse me. Because right after it, it cranked up, I sat there for a second, it gave a couple of glugs, and then died and turned off. And then I pulled out my phone and recorded it again. And I was trying to get some revs out of it, but it just wasn't happening. That fuel has been sitting there for a long time. It's fuel that I've already added to fuel that has already been sitting there for years. So octane is definitely super low in the car. So I'm going to drain now that I got pressure at the pump, I'm just going to key forward and cycle the key on until I can drain all the fuel out like that, and then put fresh fucking 93 in there. But I tried to shoot something earlier. I made a video, it was quick, like in the moment, but I wanted to detail exactly what happened. It was a really basic thing, and this is what I was just talking about the other night, how like I could go out there and it could be something so simple. But just to think that not too long ago I was considering junking that fucking car, and or swapping it out for another shell, junking the car, getting rid of it, stripping it out and junking it, even though I've had it for so long, just because I hate troubleshooting. And why was it like, even though I said it was probably something simple, and it might be something simple, you never know. And I sometimes I lose heart real easy and quick. Sometimes I'm just ready to pull a plug. Like I said, my luck doesn't always hold out, so I was gonna fucking get rid of it and just start with something else. But luckily enough for me that it was something so basic and simple, and that it glared to me like as soon as I was looking at it, like, well, it's been tampered with, it's been fucked up. So that's a good place to start looking, even if it looks like it shouldn't, even if it looks like it's solid. So when I go to fix that, I'm gonna fix it proper. Like I'm gonna actually put actual butt connectors and close up the casing and shit, make sure it's done properly, instead of that twist on little shit. Man, so I still gotta go change out my fuel pump. I still gotta put the Walbro in there. So there's that. But anyway, like even though there's still like a small stack of shit that needs to be done before that car is drivable, That's huge motivation for me to actually get out there and do these things. So now I'm gonna put the axles in and fucking get the turbo kit mocked up, get the fuel pump swapped out, actually mount the seats in properly after I clean the car properly. And man, I'm so close to having a running car that's, you know, a channel car. Um, yeah, I don't. It just seems like such an unreal thing at this time for me. That it's just been so many years to hear this car run like that, man. It's like I almost want to go door to door and knock on everybody's fucking door and bring them out. And she's like, listen to it. It runs. You know, like fucking celebration, man. Such a big deal, such a big moment, you know. But what happens, you know, what happened is I say, that I've mentioned for some of you guys who have been watching me for a long time, I've said it's going to come down to me. I'm going to have to be the one to get out there and figure this shit out eventually, whether it's something easier or something difficult. You know, like I wish I had a group of people or just 2 or 3 people that were really dedicated and motivated to come by and help pushing me. You know, like the friends you have when you're growing up as kids, the ones that always want to be around or they can be around. Like, I know we're all adults and shit, but it's just, you know, it sucks the fact that that when I'm called on for a favor or whatnot, man, even if I don't talk to you for years, if I've considered you family at any point in time or a really close friend of mine, I'm always there. I'll drop what I'm doing and show up. And it just sucks that I don't have anybody that can do that for me. Like, I'm even willing to do shit like that for strangers, like help strangers out, you know. And not when it comes to questions and shit, but like people who live in my area who know me that I fuck with, you know, or if I come across you and doing a deal or whatnot, and you want to work something out, I'm willing to help you out there. That, you know, it's different from people hounding me in my DMs all the time, because most of these people are assholes that don't take the time to search for things themselves, and they just want to constantly be fed shit all the time. I don't have patience for that. But for people like that I come across that I vibe with, that have good stories or whatnot, people that are capable of doing things themselves, they just need a little help, they need a little hand because of expenses or whatnot, I'm down for that. So it just really fucking blows cock that I got nobody. I mean, like, this would have been probably one of those things where if somebody would have just showed up at my crib and just been like, let's go out and look at it. Like, even if I still would have figured it out myself and I hadn't done it, it would have been great to have somebody that could have helped motivate me to get out there and do it, because sometimes I lack it myself. I like the easy thing, and the easy thing for me is engines. I'd rather just build engines instead of troubleshoot shit. But anyway, at the end of the day, I managed to get myself out there and check it out and get it started and get it turned on. And later tonight, I still got a fucking mess I need to go through in here so I can get Edgar's block on the stand. I know I keep saying this, but it's definitely going to happen this weekend. I'm going to be gone for the next 2 weekends following, so I have to do it this weekend because I want to be able to ship out that block. Even if tonight all I do is mount the fucking engine block, hone the cylinders, and bolt in the crank, then that means the next day all I got to do is drop in pistons and rods. And it's still the weekend for me. Today's my first weekend day. Tomorrow's the last weekend day. So it'll be plenty easy enough for me to do that. Yeah, man. So I'm just fucking stoked, and that's one of those things where guys don't lose motivation. You know, at least exhaust all your options first before you give up. You gotta actually make the attempt to go out there and check. Turns out it was something so simple that was stopping me from running this car for all these months. I mean, who knows, man? If I would have gone out there and did what I did today, like when I initially dropped the swap in like 3 or 4 months ago, or 4 or 5 months ago, this car would have already probably been finished and tuned by now. Because money for me to buy the extra parts I need isn't a big deal. Brakes and rotors aren't expensive. I could have already bought that by now. The speed sensor isn't expensive. I could have already bought that by now. You know, this engine could have been tuned, and I could have been driving this car. You know, but whatever. You live and you learn. So now this car, the Integra, is going to be done soon, and that gives me all kinds of motivation to, you know, for the RSX. And it just remotivates me. Like, it's one thing, like I said a bunch of times, where I know what I can do, but it's been so long since I've seen one of my running engines in front of me, because so many of the engines I've built recently I lose track of because people disappear and don't speak to me afterwards. You know, that you need something like this to remind yourself what you're capable of doing. Sometimes you got to do something to be like, yeah, I can do this. You know, and it's just like, I know I can. I have my engines got no problems and shit. I've never really had anybody come back and complain, talk shit. But it's just nice to be able to have this, because it's been so long. This has been so long. And I was talking to my wife earlier, and I was like, watch, now it'll be my luck that somebody will come and steal this motherfucker now that I got it turned on. I swear to God, if somebody comes and robs me again, dog, I'm out the game. That's a fucking wrap for me, son. Never again. Not until I get a fucking 10-foot high wall around my crib. That'll be the last time I try to build a car. Anyway, at the end of the day, you know, I really, you know, now that I got the RSX and shit, maybe it seems like I'm fucking turncoating on the Integra. I'm happy that I have a manual car to drive. And at least now, you know, even though it's got a little bit of issues, I can drive a manual car again as a daily, day-to-day. It's got AC and shit too, so that's great. The Integra's not going to have those kind of creature comforts, and I'm pretty sure it's going to be a rough ride. But at least I'll have it done. And for me right now, at this point, finishing the Integra isn't even about me having the car to drive. Even I don't care how much power it makes. It's just about having this done for the people who were there to give me the parts to get this fucking thing together. So I like I mentioned it before, and I don't think I talked about it too much in detail because I was talking about something that might not happen because at the time the car wasn't running, and I might be junking the car and starting over, kind of like a soft restart by getting another shell. But one of those things I wanted to do, I was thinking about now that I have another car that I can drive, I don't need to worry about having the Integra as a daily, because what I was originally going to do was daily the Integra while my wife drives the CHR. But now I have the RSX the daily, and even though I got plans to do things with that, I don't have to do it right away. So I can daily the RSX and take my time with the Integra. And what I was thinking about doing is doing an initial tune on 93 just to see where I can get to it with that. How close I can get to 500, or maybe 500 if I'm lucky, if the turbo's got enough juice in it. And then think about going back and changing the fuel pump, getting bigger injectors and running E85 and see if I can how high I can get into 500. I think that's the idea right now. Right now, what I'm gonna do the initial tune, see how close, or if I can break 500 wheel horsepower on pump with that setup. It probably won't. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how much boost it takes to get to where it needs to be at. So do that initial tune just to see where it's at. Drive it around a little bit. Do some street pulls and shit like that. Highway pulls in Mexico. And then once I do that, then get the bigger injectors, get the bigger fuel pump, and go back and retune on E85 and see if I can make close to 600. And if I do, or just let me rephrase that. Push it to where the clutch gives out. Push it to where the clutch starts to have a problem, and then hold it there. And I would imagine that's somewhere in the 500 horsepower range. And then just have that as a little, like a shop car thing, like something I can have for a while, and then till I can start the next build, because I'm definitely gonna be doing another one soon. This is giving me all kinds of new motivation. I'm so fucking hyped up right now. All right, guys. I know this is kind of like an incoherent, ranty thing, but I wanted to explain exactly what I did, what exactly was the problem, and yeah, just share the love, the love I have for this day in this fucking car finally, man, running, and hopefully now you can see me finishing mocking up the turbo piping, finishing the ABS, delete the last little things there, and getting it ready to be on the road. All right, guys. Thanks for watching, and peace.